afternoon, everyone. I am Darhyn Flores from BSED-2 English, and today I am going to tackle about the story of Cephalus and Procris. Now, let me start it with our objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students should be able to first narrate an overview about the story of Cephalus and Procris, and lastly, identify the important lesson that the story is conveying to its readers. Now, the story of Cephalus and Procris. Its author is Thomas Bulfinch. Thomas was born on July 15, 1796 and died on May 27, 1867. Thomas Bulfinch was an American author born in Newton, Massachusetts. Belonged to a well-educated merchant family of modest means. He published a reorganized version of the biblical book of Psalm to illustrate the history of the Hebrews. However, he is known best as the author of Bulfinch Mythology, an 1881 compilation of his three previous works. First, The Age of Fable, or Stories of Gods and Heroes, in 1855. Second, The Age of Chivalry, or Legends of King Arthur, in 1858. And lastly, Legends of Charlemagne in 1863. Now, the story of Cephalus and Procris belonged to the work of Thomas Bulfinch, The Age of Fable, or Stories of Gods and Heroes, in 1855. Now, let's proceed to the characters of the story Cephalus and Procris. Of course, the first characters or the main character of the story was Cephalus. So Cephalus is the son of Hermes and Herse. Cephalus is the husband of Procris, a kind of a stand-up guy. He was famous all over Greece for his wonderful beauty. He was also famous as a tireless hunter. Cephalus also is the owner of the dog named Laelaps and the spear or the javelin. Now, another characters of the story Cephalus and Procris is of course the wife of Cephalus, which is Procris. Procris is the third daughter to be specific, of the Athenian king Erectus and Praxithea. Procris is an Athenian princess. Procris is wife of Cephalus. Her sisters were Creusa, Orythia, Tithonea, Protogenes, Pandora, and Merope. Her brothers were Cecrops, Pandorus, Mission, and possibly Orneus, Thespius, Eupalamus, and Sicyon. Now, another character of the story, Cephalus and Procris, is Eos or Aurora. Aurora is the goddess of the dawn, has the power to bring the dawn or the morning sky, also has the power to usher in her brother Helios, the sun, and bring her sister Selene, the moon, to rest. Now, lastly, Aurora fell in love with Cephalus. Now, another characters that will be present in the story of Cephalus and Procris were Laelaps, a hunting dog who always catches his prey. A spear or the javelin, a spear that always hits its target. Mission fox, a fox that could never be caught. We would be able to know what are the role of these three additional characters are that will be present in the story Cephalus and Procris. Now, let me start it with a short overview of the story Cephalus and Procris. Cephalus and Procris are a young couple, newly married, whose love was destined to end in tragedy. Aurora or Eos, the goddess of dawn, fell in love with Cephalus. Cephalus rejected her, and she retaliated by planting in him seeds of suspicion concerning his wife's faithfulness. Still, Cephalus returned to his wife. One day, someone told Procris that Cephalus is cheating on her, but he never believed unless she sees her and hear it herself. So, she spied on her when he got for hunting and heard Cephalus talking to someone, and it hurts her. She made noises behind the bushes, and Cephalus thought it was an animal, so he throws his javelin and hit Procris, causes her death. Now, that is the short overview of this the story Cephalus and Procris. So, from the overview itself, um, it is very understandable and very obvious that the story of Cephalus and Procris ended, or their story was in tragedy. Now, let's dig deeper into the story. What really happened behind the story, and why did Procris end up being dead? So, Cephalus and Procris. This Greek myth is the tragic love story of Cephalus, a beautiful young man, and his wife Procris. It could be viewed as being about the importance of gossiping. So, Cephalus enjoyed hunting and would get up early to hunt in the woods. The story begins with Aurora, the goddess of the dawn, stealing Cephalus up into the heavens because she fell in love with him. Now, this Greek mythology is a tragic love story of Cephalus and Procris, as just what I've said earlier, that their story ends in a tragedy. Now, at the end of the story, we'll be able to know why this Greek mythology viewed as being about the importance of not gossiping. So the story starts with Cephalus. The story started with describing Cephalus that he is a hunter and he loves to hunt. And then Aurora, the goddess of the dawn, fell in love with him and steal Cephalus up into the heavens because she fell in love with him. Now, Cephalus, however, had just recently married his wife, Procris, whom he loved. He told Aurora that he loved his wife and wanted to go back to her. Aurora gives in but warns him, "I will let you go back to your mortal wife, but I'll warn you that someday you will be sorry to see her." Now, when Aurora steals Cephalus into the heaven, Cephalus loves his wife too much that he can't even cheat on her. So he told Aurora that he needs to go back to his wife, Procris. But Aurora doesn't give up that easily. So he warned Cephalus. She said, "I will let you go back to your mortal wife, but I'll warn you that someday you will be sorry to see her." Now let's find out why Aurora warned Cephalus. So Cephalus goes back to being happy with his wife on earth. Procris, his wife, was a favorite herself of a goddess, Diana, the goddess of the hunt. Favored her, and as a token of that gave her a dog that could outrun all other animals and a javelin that would always hit its mark as gifts. Procris gives both these gifts to her husband to use while he hunts. So, the goddess of the hunt, which is Diana. So, Diana, the goddess of the hunt, really like Procris. So, she favored her and gave us a token that he gave a dog named Laylaps, which always catches his prey, and a javelin that would always hits its mark. Then those gifts, Procris gave it to his husband, which is Cephalus, because Cephalus is a hunter. Now let's proceed. Then it turns out that an unknown god has created and let loose a fox to harass the countryside. The townspeople are unable to capture the fox, so they asked Cephalus if he would help. Cephalus lets loose his dog after the fox, and his dog takes off too fast that no one could follow him with their eyes. The people go to a hilltop to watch the hunt when all of a sudden both animals come to an immediate stop. The gods had torn both animals into stone because, being that both were gifts from the gods, they couldn't have one beat the other. Now, in this part of the story, the Termitian fox is already present. An unknown god created a fox, which is the Dormition fox, which could never be caught. So this fox harassed the countryside. Now the townspeople were all scared, so they asked Cephalus if they could catch that fox for them. So Cephalus let loose his dog Laelaps after the fox, which is that dog always catches his prey. But the two animals, the fox or the Termitian fox and the dog Laelaps, suddenly come to an immediate stop because those two animals were given by the gods as gift. So it is impossible that a dog that always catches its prey could catch a fox that could never be caught. So the gods turned both animals into stones. So life continued happily and the same as before, even though Cephalus' dog had been turned to stone. He still had his javelin and went hunting daily with it. One day, after becoming tired and from hunting, Cephalus takes a break by a stream. He takes off his clothes and was saying things to the breeze like, "Please come and fan my chest, breeze. You know how I love you. You make my solitary hunting trips so pleasant." Now, after that phenomenon happened, that the both animals turned into stone, their life continued. Though Cephalus' dog had turned into stone, he still has his javelin. So he go into hunting together with his javelin. Then one day, Cephalus was on hunting. He's tired, so he take a break into a stream. Now, while taking a break, Cephalus was talking to the breeze, saying, "Please come and fan my chest, breeze. You know how I love you. You make my solitary hunting trip so pleasant," Cephalus said to the breeze. Well, as it turns out, someone was walking and heard Cephalus talking to someone like that and rushes to tell Procris about her cheating husband. Procris first faints and as she comes to, doesn't believe it. She says that she won't believe it until she hears and sees it for herself. So, after Cephalus saying that to the priest, he doesn't even know that someone heard him saying those words, thinking that Cephalus is cheating on Procris. So that someone rushed towards Procris and tell her that what he heard, or what that someone heard from Cephalus. Then, at first, Procris faints, but after regaining her consciousness rather, she doesn't believe it. She says that she won't believe it until she hears and sees it herself. So the next day, she sneaks out and follows Cephalus as he hunts. Then when he takes his usual break by the stream to cool off, he begins talking to the breeze the same way. So after Procris knowing about that, about what happened about Cephalus and by the stream, Procris sneak out and follow Cephalus on his way to its hunting session. Then, just like the usual, Cephalus took a break by the stream and talk again to the breeze the same way as that he thought the way he thought to the breeze the same the other day that someone heard him. Now, Procris is hiding in the bushes and hears it all. So Procris hears everything Cephalus says to the breeze. She begins to cry softly, and Cephalus hears the noise from the bushes. He thinks it's a wild animal, so he throws his javelin, the one Procris gave him, and it hits her. He hears his wife cry out, and when he goes over, he sees her bleeding and dying. So after Procris hear those words from Cephalus, she got hurt, of course, because thinking that Cephalus is really cheating on her. So she begins to cry softly behind the bushes. Now Cephalus heard some noises and thinking it was a wild animal. So Cephalus uses javelin and hits that something behind the bushes, that creating that tiny noise. Then it hits her. It hits Procris. He hears his wife cries now, and when he goes over to see behind the bushes, he sees her bleeding and dying. They both try to stop the bleeding, but it doesn't work. As Procris is dying, she makes one last wish to her husband. She says, "If you can do me one favor after I'm dead, please don't marry that horrible breeze." Cephalus understands the confusion, but it's no use to tell her. She dies, and somehow he is able to relate the confusion to his wife, and her face becomes calm in death. Now, after running to Procris, there is no hope. They try to stop the bleeding, but it doesn't work. Procris is already dying. So before dying, Procris asks her husband rather, one last favor, and that is to not marry that horrible breeze. So Cephalus understands the confusion that Procris has. Then he is able to relate the confusion of his wife, and her face becomes calm in that. So that would be the end of the story. That would be the end of the story. So just like what I've said, the story ended in tragedy because Procris died. So let's get back to the part wherein I have stated earlier that the Greek mythology of Cephalus and Procris could viewed as being about the importance of not gossiping. So it is really not a good thing to gossip, because it might end up into a misunderstanding and sometimes could cause death. And that will be all for the story Cephalus and Procris. Hope you've learned a lot about the story.